So welcome to our commentary track for Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. A film that everybody loved, I think. I think that's what we can take away from
Adored
our
by
first...
fans and newcomers alike.
Each of us, I mean, I have only seen this once. I'm pretty sure you've only seen this once.
Yep, at the same time.
Yep, we went to the midnight premiere because we like Star Wars, and we left the midnight premiere not liking Star Wars.
But no, we wanted to do a video on this because we hate it, and lots of people ask specifically why, and it's too hard to summarize it all as one thing, so...
There are about as many problems with this movie as there are minutes in the movie, so we felt like we could accomplish both of these goals at the same time. A rewatch and voicing all of our concerns about the direction of the franchise.
Masochistic tendencies.
Because we're a bunch of Nazi fanboys who just didn't get our fan theories validated by this movie. So, they're just the worst, most rip-offy feeling. Like, they just... modern sci-fi ships look like nothing. And these specifically look like they were like the dollar store versions of Star Wars ships.
That's a oh my gosh, my voice. Please hold. That's a broad critique of the new Star Wars thing. Is it's like a rip-off version. Mm-hmm. It looks like the Spaceballs version, but it's not meant to be funny.
Right. It's like an unironic parody. The best part about this ship, too, is that this thing looks like a giant pizza slice, and this isn't even the worst design in the movie.
It's so weird looking, because it looks unfinished, which maybe it's supposed to.
Yeah, it's stylistically designed to be that way. We're just not saying anything.
A moment of silence for the death of Star Wars.
There will be no terms. There will be no surrender. Hi, I'm holding for General Hux.
There it is.
Yep.
I'm not exaggerating. That was the moment I slouched down in my chair and I was like, "Oh boy."
This is what they put on the epitaph of the gravestone of the Star Wars.
This is
franchise.
by no means the worst.
Oh no!
But this is a harbinger.
Right. This is like when you fly over Three Mile Island, and as the reactor is overloading and you get exposed to the radiation, you don't die right then. You die a little while later, like when the movie ends. But this is when you first get exposed. This is when you contract cancer for the first time. You die later.
It's when you feel the lumps.
This is supposed to be a moment at which the entire resistance could be crushed. And literally the entirety of the First Order, which is supposedly in control of the entire galaxy at this point, is being held off by a single
fighter, yeah. So they introduced this new ship, and you're supposed to feel intimidated, right? Like at the beginning of A New Hope, not to compare to old Star Wars movies, but that's going to happen. Mm-hmm. In A New Hope, the opening shot of that movie is a tiny little cruiser being chased by a giant Star Destroyer, and it sets a feeling of trapped. You know what I mean? Nowhere to run.
But
and then this is one fighter taking out the big bad ship that we're introducing in this movie. That's bigger than any other ship ever.
Imagine if the opening of A New Hope was the CR-90 just running circles around Darth Vader's Star Destroyer and blowing up all of its cannons.
A ship smaller than the CR-90.
Yeah.
and then a ship bigger than the Star Destroyer.
Poe Dameron apparently is in command of the squadron of Resistance bombers in this next scene, but Leia, Poe Dameron's superior, is not in command of the squadron of bombers, or is unable to communicate. Also,
this what is this thing called?
BB-8.
BB-8. Yeah. BB-8's stupid. Like, it's so slapsticky.
But like, did
R2-D2 first of all keep extending his little hand into 1,000 different circuits, and then just slam his head into it?
And it's not the sole purpose of whatever the BB-8 type droid. Is their sole purpose not to repair and maintain these fighters during combat? How does he not know what to do? Like BB-8, it's portrayed as though he's like completely confused by this.
Also, speaking of great ship designs, enter the worst ship design.
They got rid of K-wings for these things. I have a lot of issues with this, alright? So, I'm going to talk about one thing in particular. What they're going for here is, Star Wars is like World War II in space, which it is, you know?
Yep.
So why isn't there a B-17 analog, right? For like a really heavy bomber that's slow and lumbering but carries a large payload, right? Now, that makes sense when you're fighting a war. A lot of people were talking about like, there's no gravity in space. Well, there is. But that's not the problem. The problem is, why would you put yourself in the position, like a tactically disadvantageous position of flying over something, if you didn't have to, if you could just launch missiles at it? That's the reason bombs aren't really used that much anymore.
And even Revenge of the Sith, the opening battle over Coruscant is really great.
Oh, yeah.
It has a lot of sense of scale. You know, there's a lot going on. This is just boring. I don't know.
I don't know if they're going for, like, a more personal feel or whatever by keeping it small, so such, like, the space battle is such small scale in this.
Maybe,
but,
you could make that argument.
But it
here.
doesn't, you don't get to know any of the characters. The only only service that could bring to the movie is to further develop individual characters rather than focusing on a broad number. But we don't get to know any of these characters more. Can you imagine if this happened to Tarkin?
I was just going to say, can we talk about respecting your superior officers? These people, I'm sure, have a lot of respect for their superior officer. And this is another thing. Throughout this movie, the movie can't decide if General Hux is a bad Nazi or if he's a doofus.
A moron, yeah, like just a complete.
Which is a problem for your villain.
Remember in like the Death Star briefing room
This is a fun,
scene?
wacky bit.
Yeah, this is funny. Like we can play the Seinfeld theme over this part, I think.
That is like something George would do in Seinfeld, like fall off an operating table and like squirt water everywhere. Jerry, I squid it. No, I'm not gonna finish that.
It's probably for the best.
This scene.
Now we approach the part of the movie where that's become a
the
meme.
Second punch to the gut.
Yeah, the assassination.
The 1-2.
Luke Skywalker as a character, and just it's such a waste of like a good setting too. Like this. Oh come on now.
Gotta sell those toys. There's not really a compelling reason why you would leave a map if you didn't want anyone to ever come find you.
It's one of the many plot points that he just completely dropped from Force Awakens. Do you have anything to say about
Well,
Snoke?
we're just degenerate basement dwellers, so...
Yeah, what do we know?
Well, I think everyone just knows Disney's in it for the cash. Disney will milk the teats dry.
Speaking of milking teats, that's going to come up in a few minutes.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
This is so sad to me. This is just... And not sad in the way the movie intends, either.
Yeah.
Just...
It's because you're a basement dweller.
Yeah, it's because my fan theories weren't validated.
Ugh. It's in such a weird spot.
What a necessary scene. Why does she smile like that? Like...
Never have I cared any less.
This, it would have been cool if they would have like incorporated this into the plot.
That is a good point. They introduce it and it comes into play in one other scene just for like
just to destroy them, like
just to destroy the old.
Laughs,
and
too.
that's Rian Johnson thing. He dredges up the past and then he kills it. We don't even go to any really other than that planet, the capitalism planet.
Oh. Not Tatooine, too. The second not Tatooine. Casino Planet. Casino Royale.
Canto Bight.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
Canto Bight, isn't it?
I don't care.
Fair enough. You made me sad. I'm thinking about Akbar. Because that's another thing that gets no, like, ceremony at all. Again, I don't need a whole, like, 10-minute funeral scene. I just a little respect for our fallen heroes.
Do you remember how big a deal it was when Admiral Akbar came back for the Battle of Ebac 9 during the Yuzon Vong War? Came out of retirement? And this is all the thanks he gets for it?
Get out of range of the Star Destroyers and the fighters will fall back.
The fighters, the 3 fighters that exist still. A retarded plot point. How did this get through the writer's room? They're at a range that we can hit them but can't destroy them?
Yeah.
What?
This is another... How did this make it out of the writer's room? Because here's the other thing. I'm not excusing it, but if they at least gave her something to do, like she had some sort of a thing to fulfill in this movie, I'm not excusing it, but it would be, at least from a story writing standpoint, useful.
This is so stupid. How did they film this? I mean, not that they filmed this, but you know what I mean.
I know
like,
what you mean. How did someone render this?
And this is another one of those shots that they just did for the trailer, and B is just like, hey, remember Star Wars? Do you guys remember
this
Star Wars?
This doesn't go anywhere. It's not like he's in the Millennium Falcon, like, ever. I think this may be the only other time I'll ever watch this movie.
I
Without
didn't even...
like a life or death situation.
If Rian Johnson breaks into your house, puts a gun to your head, and says you have to watch this movie a third time, would you do it?
I feel like I could take Rian Johnson, and even if I couldn't, I think I'd be okay with that. If he blew my brains out,
what you do is you have to...
I'd have died an honorable death.
Vice Admiral Gender Studies is canonically believes in astrology, which I think is really funny, because how does that work when you don't live on one planet? Because it's based on the arrangement of, like, the alignment of stars, but that's completely relative to what planet you're on. So
but no research was done in this movie, and it's a first draft. This was written in an airplane. Just scrawled on a napkin.
It was written in an airplane that was very slowly running from another airplane. That's what fun fact. That's what
like,
actually inspired
boom.
this.
It's like a bolt of lightning from the heavens.
Eureka!
Divine intervention. This movie doesn't understand how combat works. This movie doesn't understand how politics works. Movie doesn't understand how the military works.
How astrology works.
Yeah, how astrology works. Because it doesn't. Because no one did any research into this movie. It is a first draft. It has to be.
Like, she called them a bombing fleet, too. Like, this is, again, a very minor gripe.
A fleet?
But it should be, like, squadron or wing. Like, this is not the collective. And a vice admiral should know that.
But I would say that's not even...
And now we go back, again, because this movie offers nothing in the way of character development. Finn is exactly where he left, or, like, exactly where he was at the beginning of Force Awakens. Yeah. Even though we already covered him, like, becoming courageous again and working through this aspect of himself at the end of Force Awakens.
Well, because we don't know what to do with these characters, and that's the problem, well, one of the many broad problems of this movie.
All the characters, like, Finn doesn't progress at all. He progressed a little in the Force Awakens, then he regressed to where he was at the beginning. Rey has nowhere to progress, because she already started out being... Even in this one, they literally acknowledge that she can't learn anything because she already knows everything she needs to know. Which is a weird... Because that's how the hero's journey works.
Why did she go to Luke, then?
What's the other main character? Poe Dameron. Arguably, he has the most character development, even though it means
nothing. They don't really give him anything to do.
They give him nothing to do.
Other than be an a-hole, because he's not being told
and because
what he
he's
should.
being a toxic white male. Is he white? Can we go through this entire thing without acknowledging that she exists? I think that would be kind of a fun... I mean, it would be fun for me just because I don't have to talk about her at all.
I think the Rose thing's been done to death. I don't think we have to.
Well, there's nothing that we can really
leave
say.
it alone. It speaks for itself. It's weird that they said that this movie could be, 2 hours and 45 minutes too, because you could cut out whole subplots and this movie would essentially be the same.
Well, even the most staunch defenders of this are like, yeah, the Canto Bight subplot is completely pointless.
Right.
It could be excised from this without any loss.
But everything is B plot. Nothing is A plot. You don't have an A plot with a couple of B plots. You have all B plots.
It's like a TV show episode. It's like several TV show episodes.
Like a filler episode of a TV show.
Yeah.
Because they don't know what to do with these characters. Because they covered everything in Force Awakens.
Everybody's just running in place for this entire movie.
Which, say what you will about Force Awakens, but at least it's more or less... I mean, there's at least character development.
It works. The Force Awakens has a narrative. It's not a particularly good or original narrative.
But it has a narrative.
Yeah. The lead military thinkers that have kept this quote-unquote resistance alive for all this time can't figure this out, but some random deserter and some random janitor figure it out in like 2 or 3 sentences. That's pretty cool too.
Also, it's weird that they have to. What's her name? Maz Kanata. It's weird that they have her in this movie too. It's like they felt like they needed her.
It's just. It feels like fan service, but they forgot that nobody's actually a fan of Maz Kanata. I mean, Maz Kanata also just sounds like... She sounds like she's like somebody trying to do an impression of Edna Mode from The Incredibles.
Yeah,
You'll bring Luke Skywalker to me.
Didn't you already fail to do this, dude? Like...
These are not the droids you're looking for.
Yeah, I thought we'd kill you.
You're going to go home and rethink your life.
I do, actually. What was that one doing? Did you see that? They were raking the
stone. Don't you rake the stone?
Hashtag raking the stone.
Sounds like a euphemism. I was cleaning my blaster.
Hashtag cleaning the blaster.
But it feels like they're just there to be housekeepers for Luke.
Well, what I hate about it is that it kind of undercuts the whole thing of, like, self-exile. Because
Right.
he's just living in a community. He's just,
Right.
like, it's basically like he's crashing a retirement home. What this feels like is, so you know that scene in Doctor Strange where they're, like, where he's, like, flying through all the dimensions?
Yeah.
And it's like, I get what they're going for, but, like, we've seen that. You know, like, the ending of 2001: A Space Odyssey exists, so that's not really that
Boy,
surprising.
It sure does.
You know what I mean? But so,
You know
like,
that was filmed in like a paint factory?
there's another really nice strip design there. It's a cylinder with a little fin on the back.
It's a cube, and then there's a little tapered bit, and then a little fin.
Get it?
Ah. This whole sequence is a meme.
Yeah.
The whole Canto Bight.
No, nobody defends this.
No, I know. The staunch defenders of The Last Jedi won't even barely touch this. Can we talk about the fact that this entire situation could have been avoided if they just didn't park
They just
on a
parked
public
legally.
beach?
Yeah. I have nothing to add to this. This is just such a
But
masterpiece.
no. So all the problems that they encounter here come from them being assholes and parking on the beach, though. If they just parked where they were supposed to, they probably wouldn't have any issue because they're not doing anything illegal.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to find a guy.
Why would you write your story in such a way as to convey this message when you can just tell the audience verbatim what you want the message to be? It's so much easier, honestly. It's a great time-saving technique. Also, I'm pretty sure that's police brutality. But can you imagine if you parked illegally and you got tased? Think about it. Yep. Need some shots for the trailer. Alright, you got it. Does it make sense in the
This is a
story?
really odd
Does it have to?
sequence.
This is the most offensive thing in this movie, without a doubt.
I went to confront him, and he turned on me.
Not only is Luke an attempted murderer, but he's also a liar.
Doesn't it all look like a Nebulon B?
You familiar with the term kit bash?
No.
It's what some filmmakers and like generally people who I know, right? People who make miniatures refer to it as when you like combine multiple kits by gluing
kits
things together.
Bash. Okay.
That's what that is. This is a problem that I had. This was probably my biggest problem with Rogue One. Actually, was just that it like took the initiative away from the good guys. If that makes sense. Like, what in this movie would be different if, there's nothing in this movie that benefits from the contribution of the heroes. You know what I mean? They just kind of Mr. Magoo their way through life, and everything works out because why?
Mm-hmm. It's because they are dysfunctional.
Oh, it's metaphorical.
It's all part of the deep satire, the sharp stabbing satire,
the witty commentary. I guess it's okay to kill all these people. They had it coming because they're evil capitalists.
Now it's worth it.
Yeah. See, killing capitalists is not enough. Killing capitalists and letting animals go, that's worth it.
Are you flying this thing?
This guy has an incredible amount of, like, dedication for somebody who just betrays them on a whim later in the movie.
That's the other thing. He comes back for them, but he doesn't really have a reason to at this point, because in his eyes, they're just, like, in a prison cell. They could be anybody.
And it was never, like, promised. They never did the scene of, like, she's rich. You know, they never, like, had an incentive
because
for
that's
him.
Han's whole incentive in A New Hope, is he wants that money.
Right.
That sweet, sweet money. That's his character.
Let the past die. Kill it if you have to.
Do you got any other slogans from, like, Hot Topic or anything?
Can't cut him too short, though, because I get real bad,
Tell me more.
Well, isn't it still more interesting than this movie?
You don't want to watch these two finger touch each other? Did you hear what Rian Johnson said about this scene?
No.
He said that this is, quote, the closest that we'll get to a sex scene in a Star Wars movie.
He's weird.
Yeah.
He's very odd. I thought I could stop it by murdering him.
One fleeting moment of instinct. But he went, he what was he planning to do? He walked all the way into his nephew's room.
He pulled out his lightsaber. But
this was obviously premeditated. If we were the court, on whatever planet that Jedi Temple was on, that would be ruled a premeditated attempt at murder.
That's a guy from Star Wars.
Why does he look so weird, though?
He looks very weird. He doesn't look worse than the Phantom Menace Yoda.
Yeah. Deep content warning.
It's almost like someone who manufactures military equipment wants to sell military equipment.
Well, that means he's evil.
Can I get really... can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Very specific. Traditionally, how does fuel work in Star Wars?
Well,
because
fighters...
this is the first it's ever been a thing.
Fighters have fuel.
Correct. That makes sense.
Right, because they're like planes, right?
Right.
But the capital ships use hypermatter generators.
Sure.
Traditionally, so they're like nuclear aircraft carriers. You would never have
again,
to
makes sense.
quote unquote refuel them, except
Because
in very
they're
rare.
huge.
Yeah, like except for like nuclear aircraft carriers go for like decades. In between
it's
refueling.
a long time.
You know, and so we can assume even if they only go decades, they would never have fuel in the sense that this movie uses the term
Right. Correct.
fuel as. And also, there would be no crossover, because they say that you can use fuel from the capital ships to load fuel into these smaller ships. Yeah, we'll just siphon some of the nuclear out of the reactor and put it into the gas tank.
And that's
That's essentially what they're doing.
And then like Holdo and Leia have that scene where they're like, "Oh, what a guy! He's such a flyboy." It's like, no, he held you at gunpoint because he thought you were a bad guy.
What a quirky little individual that guy is.
We almost lost everything. Actually, we pretty much did lose everything. What a quirky guy.
Cloaking our approach, we should be after scopes.
What does that mean?
Cloaking at approach should be after scopes. This was an idea I had a while ago. That looks like an iron.
It is an iron. Don't remember that funny joke?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right.
That looks like an iron. Again, this is straight up Spaceballs level rating right there. Like, that's not even a bad joke necessarily, but that's not a joke you put in a real movie. You know, that's a parody.
Yeah.
That's parody writing.
Yeah.
Like, you're a traitor to the Resistance. Just stand over there with all your friends and your gun. It's fine.
Don't worry, we'll just stand here.
This is why you could fix so much of this movie just by having Admiral Holdo be a First Order mole.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to introduce this whole subplot. You could even have them, like, be confused about this.
Yeah.
You know, like, can they track us through hyperspace? You know?
Literally 5 canonical minutes ago, you were being held at gunpoint by his friends because he thought you were a traitor.
He tried to mutiny
I like him.
your
seems
vessel.
Seems like a good idea. It's like people just get accused all the time of being a traitor. It's like you're just such a traitor, Don. You're such a traitor.
It's a term of endearment in the Resistance.
This movie is just a constant train wreck, isn't it?
Again, there's really
every
no
time
part
you
of
think
this.
every time you think it's over and the train is coming to a stop, it just barrels over another set of tracks and another train.
This is the scene that I always bring up when people are like, "Well, you stupid fanboys hated Force Awakens because it wasn't original enough, and then you hated Last Jedi because it was too original." It's like, what part of this scene is original?
It's the throne room scene.
Are you people touched? Like, I don't even know why he wants to kill Luke. It's not like Luke's been impeding him.
It's not like Luke is leading, causing a lot of problems.
There it is. They're not monitoring for little transports.
Yep.
What?
And that's not even like I'm a nerd, so I know that's not how the technology works. That's just a common sense thing.
Right.
When aircraft carriers are sailing around, they can only scan for other aircraft carriers. They can't scan for subs or anything.
Godspeed, rebels.
This is also an interesting line to me because she says "Godspeed, rebels."
Does she really?
What does that mean in the
I actually
Star Wars
didn't catch
universe?
that.
Shouldn't it be like "Force Speed Rebels" or something like that?
You lying snake.
She called him a lying stink.
I think she said lying snake because you see it's like poetry. It rhymes because Rey called Kylo a lying snake earlier in the movie. That's the highest insult in the Star Wars universe. You lying snake. I think I've talked about this before, but how did he know? How did the Benicio del Toro know Holdo's plan when not even Poe knew Holdo's plan? How did he know to tell them to run a decloaking scan?
People always say this is a really great scene too.
We have to watch for there's a continuity error where one of the Red Guard's knives disappears in between a shot of him fighting Rey. We're gonna have to watch for that. This scene, again, people say this is a great scene. This is the worst choreography I've ever seen in a Star Wars movie. By far.
Well,
look at this.
Those guys, did you see those guys just run away?
Yeah, they just wait.
They stop, they look around, and then they walk off the screen. Yum.
Swinging their weapons at the opponent's weapon instead of at their opponent. This is another big thing.
Yeah.
Like, what was that guy doing? Like, that guy armor could resist a lightsaber
gauntlets?
very briefly. Like, do you see how obviously that guy was swinging at the air in front of Kylo Ren? Oh yeah, watch this. Watch this.
Wait. Oh,
See,
there it
you
goes.
see it?
It's gone.
Incredible. How much was the budget for this?
Like, it's not the worst fight scene I've ever seen in any movie.
It's the worst in a Star Wars movie.
Well, I just said any movie very much
Yeah.
on purpose.
But why is the Empire not part of the past that he wants to let die? Why does he just want to... Why is the Rebels bad,
Yeah.
but Empire good?
The Jedi, all that stuff's bad, but, you know, the Nazis. 10 out of 10.
This is okay. We don't want to let this part of the past die. It's just such a shame that we can't enjoy this movie because we're just terrible fanboys.
Yeah.
If only we weren't such fanboys, maybe we'd be okay with all of these unresolved plots.
Speaking of internal logic,
yeah, this is the biggest internal
I
logic.
don't even think we really have to go into it. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
I don't know. People still defend it though.
Yeah. People, my favorite defense of this is they're like, oh, well,
Yeah.
you can't do this with a normal ship. It's because that Mon Cal ship has experimental shielding. What?
Sure. That's called plot convenience.
But how would that even help?
I'll give them as visually it looks cool.
Well,
but
visually
it's,
it's just a rip-off of the seismic charge.
She's really phoning it in compared to Kylo. He was really giving it his all with the
He looks
facial
like the
expressions.
veins are bulging out of his head. There it is. Shot heard round the world. And they
How it,
weren't
like,
even
splinters,
content,
though. Yeah,
They weren't content with just destroying the Super Star Destroyer either.
Yeah,
It's like, again, it's just this weird convenience stuff. It's like how the bombers all explode into each other.
Right.
It's like
they managed to take out like eight Star Destroyers in one hit. I don't know how.
It's experimental shielding, actually.
Control.
This is the part of the movie that spawned the world's worst Lego set. Is her stick supposed to be like a stun staff, or is it just a stick?
I think it's just a stick.
Okay.
She brought a non-stun stick to a stun stick fight. I don't know where I was going with that.
Also, I find it weird how the non-lethal stun baton can damage her armor, but lethal blaster bolts can't.
Yeah. A little section right off
Oh,
there.
we missed the best line in the movie there. You're
Oh,
nothing.
I
You're
rebel?
just scum.
Oh, yeah.
Rebel scum. Kill yourself.
Do you think she's not dead? She's just floating in space.
I can't wait to see her come back in episode 9.
At this point, the crazier the better, is what I say.
Yeah.
You've already blown it. Unless you start retconning things, like lots of things, your universe is bad.
Mm-hmm.
So just have some fun with it.
He says,
Yeah.
you want to command my army, but then he says immediately after that, we have no ruler.
Yeah, no, I know.
What?
Again, the movie doesn't actually know what Hux's role is. He reminds me a lot of a Harry Potter. It's probably the British accent.
Wasn't he actually in Harry Potter?
Was he?
I think so, right?
Hold on, let me do some research.
Yeah.
No, he was in Peter Rabbit.
Well, that was a movie?
Oh yeah, he's the bad man. They the rabbits poison him. He has a peanut allergy. This is a side thing. I've not actually seen the movie, but there's this whole thing. It was kind of controversial because the rabbits give him peanuts knowing that he's allergic to peanuts. So it's not like that they have a fun rivalry. They're trying to kill him via allergy.
What the fuck are you talking about right now?
Peter Rabbit.
I also like this.
Yeah, this is a classic.
They want to prove specifically that this isn't a ripoff of Hoth, even though that it is. They're like, guys, don't worry, it's not snow.
It's salt.
It's actually salt, so you can all shove it, hater Nazis, okay?
They thought of everything. There's no plot holes in this movie.
Yeah, it's a plot hole-less movie. What is the plan?
Again, this also plays into this movie's trope of weird imbalances in power, but they still win.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't work for the underdog thing because it's just bad.
Uh-huh. They have to have some chance, you know?
Right.
Like, there's such a thing as asymmetric
This
warfare.
isn't crafty.
But this is not even warfare. This
Because-
is just like...
Gotta get that nostalgia in there. Remember when Luke was gunning in one of those in that one?
I'm legitimately curious, like, what was Rian Johnson's vision for this scene?
I mean, I think we're looking at it.
Well, what did you expect?
Well, all the unarmed ships are getting gunned down. We're outnumbered like 20 to 1.
Our 16
we're taking
ships
heavy losses.
going up against the entire army.
And other obvious things.
And the entire army that's in control of the galaxy now. Our 16 unarmed speeders aren't making a lot of headway. Weird, right?
I mean, this would make a great movie, but wouldn't they be better off running the other way with these things?
They landed so far away that it's going to take them
That's
like
the other weird thing.
2 hours to get there. Like,
Why
I
did
get it's
they-
for cinema, like it's a conceit of cinema.
Again, yeah, fine.
But it has to make sense, you know? I thought that they were actually going to kill Finn off, and I was like, you know what? I actually respect that. I can respect that.
Yeah.
Because that's an arc for his character. They brought back his cowardice in the beginning.
Yeah.
It's like, this is him overcoming that. That is a character
To
arc.
right, to prevent them from dying, and he's the only one who can make it, kind of thing. I really don't like this movie. That wouldn't redeem this movie. It would have been a fair decision,
Right.
and it maybe would have had a little bit of emotional impact, but no. Plus,
That sweet slide, though.
and he teleports so far back too. This movie doesn't understand how time and space work, specifically space.
Yeah.
But I
It's
saved you. Yeah, but you just completely fucked everybody else over.
That's how we're going to win. Oh, get your cyanide pills ready, boys.
For real though, it would have been so much better if he sacrificed himself
Yeah.
to prevent.
It's funny. It's funny too because they're all like high on themselves. Like, we'll be the spark that lights the fire that burns the First Order down. It's like nobody wants to help us. Sorry.
Can I talk about how this doesn't make any sense either? The whole
Yeah, please.
it's not
please
really
do.
Luke. Because if he's gonna die, why doesn't he just die in person? So we at least get some stakes in our battle. Because a battle between a not real person, a projection of a person, and a real person has 0 stakes.
Mm-hmm. But it's funny too because they were like, it would have been exactly the same if he would have just fought Kylo and sacrificed himself to
That's what
buy
I'm saying.
time or whatever. But then they just don't do that.
And people are
make
like,
something stupid
the
and
fight
then
is
have
really
the exact
cool.
same ending.
But it doesn't mean anything. The fight isn't cool because he's not there. Good thing you're here because
Boy, this would be so epic if we cared about any of these characters. It's like, stop, we were moving in the first place.
It'll take us about 3 hours to get to Cave, sir. There's no resistance. Literally no
Hey,
resistance.
hey-o.
Yeah. And also, anyone who didn't call it when he's not dead after that is stupid.
Right. But he legitimately looks traumatized by the fact that his uncle tried to murder him in his sleep. Like, why do we never get a resolution of that part of the movie?
I don't know why he would be traumatized by that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a pretty normal thing. Didn't your uncle come into your bedroom at night and try to kill you?
I thought something else was going to come after the coming into your bedroom
That was the
at
joke.
night.
That was the joke.
No, you don't.
They're just walking through all the fire. And but back, they're like, no, it's okay. She's too far gone. He's
yeah.
like, no, I've got a pulse. They're like, no, it's too late. They just like put a pillow
Yeah.
over her head.
It's like she just has
It's
a
like,
paper
what are you
cut.
doing? They're like, shh. Look at those pants. He's got some wide pants.
He looks like a pirate, like a or something.
It's like the episode of Seinfeld. But see, it's not even like it didn't work with Darth Vader. He already has the data to back up
Right,
that it's
yeah.
possible with the guy who was dictator of the galaxy.
It's weird because they can't decide if they want him to be a bad guy or a good guy again. Like, do they
Also,
want him to be a mutineer
Thank goodness
traitor,
for that beacon.
or do they want him to be just a lovable flyboy hotshot with a few, downsides?
He's apparently been completely forgiven for all that too, by the way.
Leia just said you follow him.
Yeah.
He's the new leader of the Resistance. Again,
What a guy. What a
Character
wacky
arcs.
guy.
What are they? How do they work? We almost got
I
through
like how
this
they had-
entire
yeah.
movie without saying the phrase "subvert your expectations" once, though.
Wow.
Just like Neo's this too.
Yeah.
I don't know why the sequel trilogy hates lightsaber fights so much.
Yeah, no one touches. They're all against touching lightsabers, you know? Jedi phobic. We're gonna cut that out.
I'm sorry. I'm sure you
He's like, I failed you, but then
I'm
he's like,
sorry.
But then he says that he wasn't there
That's
to
what I was
apologize.
gonna say. He wasn't there to apologize, but he just apologized.
I will kill the last Jedi.
It's almost like it's only the first draft of this movie.
He can bring himself to kill his dad, but then he can't bring himself to kill his mom. But then he can bring himself to. He just like flip flops back and forth so many times.
Oh my gosh!
What a twist! What a film!
It'd be funny if it weren't so sad. The immortal words of Gladys. This movie is almost over. I'm so excited.
Yeah, this is my favorite part of the movie. This is another one of those things where they flip-flopped during the same movie. The Jedi texts, they're really important. Just kidding. No, they're not. Let's burn them to the ground.
There's
Just
nothing
kidding.
she needs to know in them.
They're actually really important. We'll save them. It's funny too because this, they still consider Luke to be a hero. Like, they could have done something interesting with this, like a Harvey Dent sort of situation, where it's like, where everybody who was left after Luke died was like, we have to make sure he was remembered as a hero to keep people inspired, you know?
Sure.
But he doesn't deserve to be a hero in this timeline. He's an attempted murderer and a coward. Why? I don't get why this is a good thing for, like, he shouldn't be people's idol in this universe.
Doesn't this feel like a commercial too?
like a car, like a Kia is gonna
Like that,
come rolling
like
out.
And there's like a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
This is a Christmas commercial right here.
Rian Johnson, you genius. I didn't think anybody could single-handedly destroy the Star Wars franchise. But
Actually, yeah, John Williams. He's done great work.
Get it, spit it out.
The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi soundtracks are just remixes, and they're bad.
Chewbacca consultant.
What?
To sum up, I think we can safely say it was bad. It's a bad.
We had to watch it.
And now we can say that we watched it again. People say you can't critique it on a single viewing. It's better on the second viewing.
There's a lot of excuses that get made for this movie, and I don't understand why. Because why do we? It's not like a little corporation. It's not a little indie film. Why do we have to make excuses for it?
So
I think that about does it.
Yep. Can't wait till we see Rian Johnson get an entire trilogy.
I don't think
of
that's
films. No, I think that's going to get canceled at this point.
This movie's bad, objectively. I would argue objectively bad.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I don't think there's...
It's not... There's nothing, like, personal. I mean, I have a personal vendetta against this, but I also have an objective vendetta against this movie. Thanks for watching.
Have a little bit of negativity in your life. Goodbye.